My business partner stole $300,000 from our company and disappeared. For 2 years, I searched for him. For 2 years, I rebuilt what he'd destroyed. For 2 years, I waited for my moment. And then I got a wedding invitation. Not to me, obviously. He thought I'd never find him. He thought he'd gotten away with it. He thought he was safe, standing at the altar in his $1,000 tuxedo, marrying into money, starting his perfect new life. He was wrong. But before I tell you exactly how I crashed his $1 million wedding and destroyed everything he'd built on my stolen money, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash that like button if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, and drop a comment telling me, would you have confronted him publicly like I did, or would you have handled it differently? Because what I did that night was either brilliant or insane, and I still haven't decided which. Alright, let me take you back to where this all started. 5 years ago, in a cramped coffee shop in Portland, Oregon. My name is Jessica Park. I'm a software engineer, or at least, that's what I was before I became a business owner, and then briefly, a victim, and finally, something much more dangerous. I met Marcus Reed 5 years ago at a tech meetup in Portland. I was 28, he was 32. I'd just developed a project management software that used AI to predict timeline delays before they happened. Revolutionary stuff, but I was terrible at business. I could code anything, but I couldn't sell water in a desert. Marcus could sell anything to anyone. He had that gift, the kind of charisma that made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. When he talked about business strategy, market positioning, and scaling opportunities, it sounded like poetry. He made you believe. Your software is incredible, he told me that first night, leaning across the coffee shop table with genuine excitement in his eyes. Do you know what this could be worth? With the right positioning, the right sales strategy, the right investor pitch, we're talking 8 figures, minimum. I'd been trying to launch it alone for 6 months. I'd made exactly $1,200. I've been thinking about finding a business partner, I said carefully. Someone who understands the market side while I handle the technical development. I've been looking for exactly that, Marcus said, extending his hand. I've got a decade of B2B sales experience. I've built client lists. I know how to pitch to VCs. You build it, I sell it. 50-50 split. Equal partnership. We shook hands that night. It felt like destiny. It was actually the biggest mistake of my life. We formalized the partnership within a month. I was so excited, so naive, that I didn't hire a lawyer to review the paperwork. Marcus drew it up himself. Standard partnership agreement, he assured me. I've done this before. No need to waste money on legal fees when we're just starting out. Red flag number 1. I ignored it. We called the company Next Timeline Solutions. I was the technical founder. He was the business founder. 50-50 equity split. Joint signatory on the business bank account. Equal decision-making authority. For the first year, it was magic. Marcus brought in clients. Real clients. Companies with actual budgets. He closed deals I never could have touched. We went from $1,200 in revenue to $200,000 in our first year. I worked 100-hour weeks building custom features, integrating with client systems, providing support. Marcus worked the conference circuit, the networking events, the sales calls. We were building something real. By year 2, we'd raised our first funding round, $300,000 from an angel investor named Richard Chen who believed in our vision. That money was supposed to last us 18 months, enough to hire a small team, build out our feature set, and position us for a Series A. The money hit our business account on a Tuesday in March. By Friday, Marcus was gone. I remember that Friday morning clearly. Marcus had been acting strange all week, distracted, taking calls in private, leaving the office early. Everything okay? I'd asked on Thursday. Everything's great, he'd said, that charming smile firmly in place. Just dealing with some family stuff. Nothing to worry about. Friday morning, I came into the office at 7 a.m. like always. Marcus wasn't there. That wasn't unusual. He often worked from home on Fridays, taking calls with East Coast clients. But something felt off. I logged into our business bank account to pay our web hosting bill. The screen loaded. I stared at the number, certain I was reading it wrong. Balance, $247.18. $300,000, gone. My hands started shaking. I refreshed the page, checked the transaction history. 1 withdrawal. Thursday at 4:47 p.m., $299,752.82. Wire transfer to an account I didn't recognize. I called Marcus. Straight to voicemail. I called again, and again, and again. Voicemail, voicemail, voicemail. I drove to his apartment. The landlord was in the hallway. You looking for Marcus? He asked. Yes. Have you seen him? He moved out yesterday. Said it was sudden. Job relocation or something. Left his keys on the counter. My stomach dropped through the floor. I called our investor, Richard Chen. His assistant said he was unavailable. I left an urgent message. He called back within an hour. Jessica, what's wrong? The money's gone. All of it. Marcus withdrew it yesterday and disappeared. Silence on the other end. Then, tell me you have controls in place. Tell me he couldn't do that alone. We're both signatories, I said, my voice breaking. Either of us can authorize transactions. That was the partnership agreement. Jesus Christ. Richard exhaled slowly. File a police report. Now. And get a lawyer. Today. I filed the police report that afternoon. Theft, embezzlement, fraud. The detective assigned to my case was sympathetic but not hopeful. How long have you known him? She asked. 2 years. Real name? I assume so. Marcus Reed. You assume? She looked up from her notepad. You never verified his identity? Never did a background check? The shame burned through me. Numb. She made a note. We'll investigate. But I'll be honest with you, if he planned this, if he's been using a false identity or had an escape route prepared, the chances of recovery are slim. People who steal this way don't do it impulsively. She was right. Marcus Reed didn't exist. Or rather, he did exist. But the real Marcus Reed was a 74-year-old retiree in Florida who'd had his identity stolen years ago. The Marcus I knew had created a complete false identity. Fake social security number, fake references, fake work history. All of it meticulously constructed and completely untraceable. The man I'd trusted with everything had never been real. My lawyer explained the brutal reality. Without a real identity, there was no one to sue. Without knowing where he'd gone, there was no way to freeze the assets. The money was gone. The partnership was destroyed. And I was left holding the debt. Because we'd signed a lease on office space. We had contracts with clients. We had obligations. And now I was the only person left to fulfill them. Richard Chen was furious. Not at me, but at the situation. I should have done more due diligence, he said. This is partially on me. It's not your fault, I said. It's everyone's fault who didn't ask harder questions, he replied. But here's what I know. Your software works. Your technology is solid. The clients Marcus brought in, those are real relationships that value the product. He paused. I can't give you more money. Not after this. But I'm not pulling out either. If you can keep the company alive, if you can fulfill the existing contracts and rebuild trust, I'll support you. But Jessica, you need to learn the business side. Fast. So that's what I did. The next 2 years were the hardest of my life. I had to learn everything Marcus had done. Client management, sales calls, contract negotiations, invoicing, collections, all while still handling the entire technical side. I hired a business consultant with money I didn't have. I read every book on entrepreneurship I could find. I attended every networking event, forcing myself to be extroverted when every instinct told me to hide. I was terrible at it. At first, I lost clients. I fumbled pitches. I underpriced services because I was afraid of rejection. I overpromised on timelines because I didn't know how to say no. But slowly, painfully, I got better. I hired my first employee, a junior developer who could handle basic client requests while I focused on business development. Then a part-time sales associate who taught me how to structure deals properly. By the end of year 1 post-Marcus, we were stable. Not growing, but stable. By the end of year 2, we were growing again. Not just surviving, actually thriving. I'd brought the company back from the dead through sheer force of will and 18-hour days. We hit $500,000 in annual revenue. I'd hired a team of 5. We'd paid back every debt. We'd rebuilt trust with Richard and even attracted 2 more investors. Next Timeline Solutions was succeeding. Without Marcus. Despite Marcus. But every day, I thought about him. About where he was. About what he was doing with my money. About whether he ever thought about what he'd done to me. I hired a private investigator. 2 of them, actually. Over the course of those 2 years, neither found anything useful. Marcus Reed, whoever he really was, had vanished completely. Until one Tuesday morning when I received a LinkedIn message from a name I didn't recognize. Jessica, I think I found something you've been looking for. The message was from Katie Morrison, a woman who worked in event planning in Seattle. We had no mutual connections. I almost deleted it as spam. But something made me click on her profile. In her recent photos, there was a picture from a venue tour. In the background, barely visible, was a man who looked familiar. My hands went cold. I zoomed in on the photo. The face was partially obscured, but the build was right. The posture was right. The way he held himself, confident, charming, taking up space, that was right too. I messaged Katie back immediately. Who is the man in the background of your venue photo? Her response came within an hour. That's Marcus Sterling. He's engaged to one of my clients. Why? Do you know him? Marcus Sterling. A different last name, but the same first name. Arrogant or stupid? Maybe both. I might, I typed carefully. What can you tell me about him? Katie was chatty. Marcus Sterling, she told me, was a successful business consultant who'd moved to Seattle 2 years ago. He'd met his fiancée, Claudia Westbrook, at a charity gala. Claudia was old money. Her family owned a chain of luxury hotels across the Pacific Northwest. They were getting married in 3 months. Big wedding. Expensive wedding. The Westbrook family was paying for everything, of course. Katie was coordinating the whole thing. It's going to be beautiful, Katie wrote. The budget is insane. Like, I've done weddings for tech millionaires that cost less than this one. I stared at my computer screen for a long time. Then I opened a new document and started planning. And before we go any further, I need to stop and ask you something. If you were in my position, if someone had stolen everything from you and you'd finally found them, what would you do? Would you call the police? Would you confront them privately? Or would you do what I'm about to do? Drop a comment and let me know, because I'm genuinely curious if you think I went too far. And while you're down there, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because the next part of this story gets absolutely wild. Hit that like button if you're Team Jessica. Now let's get back to it. I didn't crash the wedding immediately. That would have been too easy, too expected, too easy for him to explain away. Instead, I became Claudia's friend. It started with a Facebook message. I created a profile under a slightly altered name, Jessica Chen, instead of Jessica Park. Different photos, different bio, but similar industry background. Hi Claudia. I saw you're getting married at the Grandview Estate. I got married there 2 years ago, fabricated, but she didn't know that, and I wanted to share some vendor tips if you're interested. It's such a beautiful venue, but there are some insider things to know. Claudia responded enthusiastically. She was sweet, genuinely excited about her wedding, and apparently loved making new friends who understood the stress of planning a big event. We messaged back and forth. I offered advice on photographers, florists, and timeline management. I was helpful, friendly, and completely unthreatening. After 2 weeks, Claudia asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. I met my business partner's fiancé at a Starbucks in downtown Seattle on a Saturday morning. She was beautiful, blonde, effortlessly elegant in that way that only comes from generational wealth. She showed me her Pinterest boards, her color schemes, her dress options. She talked about Marcus like he was a prince from a fairy tale. He's just so supportive, she gushed. He's helped me so much with understanding business. My father wants me to take over some of the hotel operations, and Marcus has been teaching me about management structures and financial planning. He's brilliant. I smiled and sipped my latte, thinking about how Marcus's brilliant financial planning had involved stealing $300,000. How did you two meet? I asked, keeping my voice casual. At a charity gala for children's hospitals. He was there representing his consulting firm. We just clicked, you know? He's so different from the men I grew up around. He's self-made, ambitious, driven. My parents love him self-made. With my money, he sounds wonderful, I said. What's his consulting firm called? Sterling Solutions, Claudia said. He does business optimization for mid-sized companies. He's actually helped turn around 3 companies since moving to Seattle. He's got such a gift for seeing what's broken and fixing it. The rehearsal dinner was held at one of the Westbrook family hotels. Elegant, expensive, exclusive. The kind of place where even the napkins probably cost more than my first car. I arrived dressed carefully, elegant but not showy. I needed to blend in with the bridal party while still being able to command attention when the moment came. Claudia greeted me with a hug. I'm so glad you're here. Come meet everyone. She led me through the cocktail hour, introducing me to relatives and family friends. I smiled, made small talk, and kept one eye on the entrance. And then he walked in. Marcus Sterling. Or Marcus Reed. Or whoever the hell he really was. He looked good. Better than he had 2 years ago. The stolen money had bought him nice things, tailored suit, expensive watch, professionally styled hair. He looked like success. Like someone who'd earned his place in this room full of wealth and privilege. Our eyes met across the room. I watched the recognition hit him. Watched his expression freeze. Watched the color drain from his face. To his credit, he recovered quickly. That charm, that ability to adapt and perform, it kicked in immediately. He excused himself from the conversation he was in and walked toward me, that familiar smile sliding into place. But his eyes were afraid. Jessica, he said quietly when he reached me, positioning himself so no one else could hear. What are you doing here? I'm a friend of Claudia's, I said pleasantly. She invited me. Lovely wedding you're planning. Must have cost a fortune. His jaw clenched. You need to leave. Do I? I tilted my head. That's interesting. Because I was invited. You, on the other hand, are here under false pretenses. False name. False history. False everything. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I interrupted, keeping my voice low and pleasant. You stole $300,000 from our company. You destroyed 2 years of my work. You disappeared. And now you've conned your way into marrying a wealthy woman using the money you stole from me. Marcus looked around nervously. No one was paying attention to us yet. We looked like two old acquaintances having a pleasant catch-up conversation. I can explain, he said. I don't want your explanation, I said. I want you to know that I found you. I know everything. Sterling Solutions. Your engagement. Your lies to Claudia and her family. All of it. What do you want? His voice was desperate now. Money? I can pay you back. I've been meaning to. You've been meaning to, I repeated. For 2 years. How thoughtful. Jessica, please. Don't do this here. Claudia's innocent. Her family, they'll destroy her if they find out I lied. It'll break her heart. You should have thought about that before you stole from me, before you built your new life on my ruin. Name your price, Marcus said. Seriously, I'll write you a check tonight. 400,000, 500,000, whatever you want. Just don't ruin this. I pretended to consider it. Let him hope for a moment. No deal, I said. Why? The desperation in his voice was pathetic. Why are you doing this? Because you taught me something important, Marcus. You taught me that some people will take everything from you if you let them. That trust without verification is just stupidity. That nice guys and nice girls finish last. I smiled, so I stopped being nice. And now I'm here to finish first. What are you going to do? You'll see. Enjoy your rehearsal dinner. I'll see you at the wedding. I walked away, leaving him standing there, terrified and trapped. Claudia found me a few minutes later. Did you meet Marcus? What did you think? He seems interesting, I said carefully. Very charming. He's worried you don't like him. Claudia laughed. He's been nervous all night. I think he's just stressed about the wedding. You know how grooms get. I'm sure that's it, I agreed. The wedding day was perfect. Clear blue sky, temperature in the mid-70s, the kind of day that makes you believe in romance and new beginnings. The Grandview estate was stunning. Gardens in full bloom, a ceremony lawn overlooking Puget Sound, a reception tent that looked like something from a fairy tale. I arrived early with the bridal party, helping Claudia get ready. She was radiant, glowing with happiness, completely unaware that her perfect day was about to implode. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered what Marcus had done to me. How he'd stolen not just money, but time, trust, and 2 years of my life. How he'd left me to clean up his mess while he built a new life with my resources. The ceremony was beautiful. Marcus stood at the altar looking nervous. Whether from wedding jitters or fear of what I might do, I couldn't tell. Claudia walked down the aisle on her father's arm. The officiant began the ceremony. The vows were exchanged, and I waited. I waited through through the kiss, through the walk back down the aisle as husband and wife, through the cocktail hour and the grand entrance to the reception. I waited until the moment when everything was perfect, when everyone was happy and celebrating, when Marcus Sterling thought he might actually get away with it. That's when I struck. The best man finished his toast. The maid of honor finished hers. The DJ announced that the bride wanted to say a few words. Claudia stood, champagne glass in hand, beaming at the crowd of 200 guests. I just want to thank everyone for being here, she began. This day has been perfect. Marcus, you've made me the happiest woman alive. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. The crowd awed appreciatively. But before we cut the cake, Claudia continued, I have a surprise. One of my bridesmaids actually has a special connection to Marcus that I just learned about this morning. Jessica, would you come up here? I stood, my heart pounding. This wasn't part of my plan. Claudia had gone off script. I walked to the front of the reception tent. Claudia handed me her microphone with a smile. Jessica told me this morning that she and Marcus used to work together, Claudia said excitedly. Isn't that such a small world? I thought it would be nice for her to share some memories. Marcus's face went white. He stood from the head table, but I was already speaking. Thank you, Claudia. Yes, Marcus and I do have a history. I smiled at the crowd. We were business partners, actually, about 3 years ago. We started a software company together in Portland. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Claudia looked confused but still smiling. It was a true 50-50 partnership, I continued. I handled the technical side. Marcus handled business development and sales. We were building something really special. Until March 14, 2022. Marcus took a step toward me. Jessica, don't. That was the day Marcus withdrew $300,000 from our business account and disappeared, I said, my voice clear and carrying across the silent tent. The money wasn't his. It was investor funding. It was meant to grow our company, hire employees, build our future. The silence was deafening. Instead, Marcus, or Marcus Reed, as he called himself then, though I later learned that wasn't his real name either, used that money to create a new identity. Marcus Sterling, A successful business consultant, someone with no problematic past, no angry former partners, no history of fraud and embezzlement. Claudia's smile had vanished. What? Marcus, what is she talking about? She's lying, Marcus said quickly. She's a disgruntled ex-employee who... I have documentation, I interrupted. I pulled out my phone and held it up. Bank records showing the withdrawal. Police reports from the theft investigation. Articles about the investigation into Marcus Reed's identity fraud. And most interestingly, an analysis of Sterling Solutions' initial capital. I looked at Marcus. Would you like to tell your wife where you got the money to start your consulting firm? Or should I? You can't prove anything, Marcus said, but his voice shook. Actually, I can. I switched my phone to mirror on the reception's display screen. The DJ, confused but compliant, patched me through. Bank statements appeared on the screen. Transaction records, dates, amounts. $300,000 withdrawn from Next Timeline Solutions on March 14th, I said, pointing to the screen. $290,000 deposited into a new account under the name Marcus Sterling on March 18th. Same person, same money, different name. Gasps echoed through the tent. Marcus, Claudia said, her voice breaking. Tell me this isn't true. Marcus looked at his new wife, at her family, at 200 guests staring at him in horror and fascination. I was going to pay her back, he said weakly. When? I demanded. Before or after you married into millions? Before or after you established yourself as a legitimate businessman using stolen capital? Claudia's father stood, his face purple with rage. You lied to us? About everything? I can explain. You told us you built your business with family money, Claudia said, tears streaming down her face. You said you were self-made. You said, her voice broke. I love you, Marcus said desperately. Everything I told you about us, about my feelings, that was real. The business stuff, that was just fraud. I finished. Just theft. Just identity fraud, embezzlement, and building your entire life on a foundation of lies. I turned to address the crowd. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here for justice. For 2 years, I rebuilt the company Marcus destroyed. I paid back investors with my own money. I worked 100-hour weeks to save something he'd tried to kill. I looked at Claudia. I'm sorry this is how you're finding out. But he would have done the same thing to you eventually. Men who build their lives on lies don't suddenly start telling the truth. I turned back to Marcus. I'm pressing charges. Again. This time with your real identity, your real location, and your real assets. The police are outside. I notified them before the ceremony. As if on cue, 2 officers entered the tent. Marcus looked at them, then at me, then at his sobbing wife. I would have paid you back, he said quietly. No, you wouldn't have, I said. But you're going to now. All of it. Plus interest, plus damages, plus legal fees. I'll see you in court, Marcus. Or whoever you really are. The officers approached Marcus. Claudia turned away, her family surrounding her, as her new husband was led out of his own wedding reception in handcuffs. I walked out of that tent into the evening air. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, but for the first time in 2 years, I felt like I could breathe. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom watching Marcus, real name Michael Brennan, as it turned out, plead guilty to wire fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. His attorney had advised him to take the plea deal. The evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution had bank records, identity documents, witness testimony from me and from 3 other people he'd scammed over the years with similar schemes. Michael Brennan wasn't just a one-time thief. He was a serial con artist who'd been doing this for over a decade. I was just his biggest score. The judge sentenced him to 6 years in federal prison. He was also ordered to pay full restitution, $300,000 plus interest, plus my legal fees, plus damages for the business losses I'd incurred while rebuilding. The money would come from seized assets. Sterling Solutions was liquidated. His cars, his condo, his investments, all of it sold to pay back his victims. I got my $300,000 back. Every penny. But more than that, I got closure. Claudia filed for annulment immediately. The marriage was dissolved as if it had never happened. I heard through mutual friends that she'd taken time off from work and traveled to Europe to process everything. I sent her a letter through her attorney. Not an apology, I didn't owe her one, but an explanation. I told her that I hadn't wanted to hurt her, but I couldn't let him get away with what he'd done. That she deserved to know the truth before building a life with a lie. She never responded. I didn't expect her to. Richard Chen, my investor, called me the day after the sentencing. I saw the news, he said. You got him. We got him, I corrected. Your investment made the company real. Without something real to steal from, he would have just been another deadbeat ex-partner. What are you going to do now? Richard asked. Grow the company, I said. Hire more people. Take on bigger clients. Do what we were always supposed to do. You've learned a lot in 2 years, Richard observed. Not just about business, about people. I learned that trust is earned, not given, I said. That due diligence isn't paranoia, it's protection. That being nice and being smart aren't mutually exclusive, but nice without boundaries is just being a target. Hard lessons, Richard said. Necessary ones. Next, Timeline Solutions grew by 300% the following year. We expanded to 20 employees. We landed contracts with Fortune 500 companies. We were featured in tech publications as one of the fastest growing startups in the Pacific Northwest. I was interviewed about the company's success. Reporters always wanted to ask about the wedding incident, as it had become known in tech circles. Do you regret how you handled it? One journalist asked me. Some people said it was too public, too dramatic. I thought about that question carefully. I don't regret exposing the truth, I said finally. Could I have done it differently? Maybe. Could I have reported him to police quietly and let them handle it? Probably. But here's what people don't understand. Marcus or Michael had already gotten away with it multiple times. He was good at this. He knew how to disappear, how to create new identities, how to stay ahead of investigations. I leaned forward. The only way to stop him was to corner him somewhere he couldn't run. Somewhere public, with witnesses, with proof, with no escape route. Was it dramatic? Yes. Was it necessary? Absolutely. Because men like him don't stop until they're forced to stop. The article ran with the headline, Tech Founder Takes Down Con Artist at His Own Wedding, a Story of Revenge or Justice. The comments section debated for weeks. Some people thought I was a hero. Some thought I was vindictive. Some thought I should have handled it privately. I didn't care about the opinions. I cared about the results. And the result was that Michael Brennan was in prison. I had my money back. My company was thriving. And I'd learned skills that would serve me for the rest of my career. But there was one more thing I needed to do. Before I finish this story, I want to ask you one last time. Was I wrong? Should I have handled it differently? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. I can take it. I promise. And if this story taught you anything about protecting yourself in business, about trusting your instincts, or about standing up for yourself even when it's uncomfortable, hit that subscribe button. Because we share stories like this every single week. Stories about people who refused to be victims, who fought back, and who won. Smash that like button if you think justice was served. And now, let me tell you what happened next. 6 months after the trial, I received a LinkedIn message from a woman named Diana Torres. Jessica, I read about what happened with Michael Brennan. I think he did the same thing to me 4 years ago. Different name, different city, but same pattern. Can we talk? I called her that evening. Diana's story was eerily similar to mine. Partnership, trust, theft, disappearance. She'd lost $140,000 and had never recovered it. I tried to find him, Diana said, but he just vanished. I eventually had to declare bankruptcy and start over. He's in prison now, I told her. And there's a restitution fund. You might be able to recover some of what he took from you? Really? Her voice broke. After all this time? Really? I connected Diana with the prosecutor handling Michael's case. She filed a claim. So did 2 other women who reached out to me after reading about the case. In total, Michael Brennan had stolen over $700,000 from various victims over 12 years. We were all added to the restitution list. None of us would get everything back. Prison wages don't pay much. But we'd get something. And more importantly, we'd gotten justice. Diana and I stayed in touch. So did the other women. We formed an informal support network, not a formal organization. Just women who understood what it was like to be conned, to rebuild, to fight back. One of them started a nonprofit focused on helping fraud victims navigate the legal system. Another wrote a book about her experience. I became an advisor to several startup founders, teaching them about partnership agreements, due diligence, and protecting themselves. Because here's what I learned through all of this. Revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about restoring balance. It's about making sure that taking from others has consequences. It's about refusing to let someone else's bad choices define your future. Marcus, Michael, whoever he was, taught me to be careful. But he also taught me to be strong. The woman who walked into that coffee shop 5 years ago and shook hands on a partnership without legal review? She doesn't exist anymore. The woman I am now knows better, does better, protects herself and others better. And that woman, she's built something real, something sustainable, something that can't be stolen because it's not just money in a bank account, it's knowledge, experience, and a reputation earned through surviving what should have destroyed her. So yes, I crashed his wedding. Yes, I exposed him publicly. Yes, I made sure everyone in that room knew exactly who he was and what he'd done. And I'd do it again. Because sometimes the only way to stop a con artist is to con them into thinking they've won, and then reveal that you were always 3 steps ahead. My name is Jessica Park. I'm the founder and CEO of Next Timeline Solutions. We're valued at $12 million and growing. And the $300,000 that was stolen from me? That's what taught me everything I needed to know about building something that lasts. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just refusing to stay down.